Hi, guys. I wanted to go over a sample of the research paper as I'm seeing similar errors on multiple people's papers. First and foremost, I wanted to let you know that this portion needs to be 250 words. If you don't know how to check that, you can highlight that paragraph or paragraphs that you have, go up to Tools, click word count, and you can see right now I have 273 words. You can absolutely go over the 250 count, but for this portion of the paper, you should have at least 250 words. Also, make sure you're using the Grammarly extension to check for all the errors that you have in your writing. Don't negate too if you have something in your paper and it underlines it in a blue squiggly line or a red one, that it's going to try to correct it for you or try to figure out what sort of error you have. So please scroll over or right click on that and check for the error and correct it. Next, make sure that you have at least one quote embedded into your writing. So you'll notice here, as I'm writing about Flynn McGarry, I had written, growing up in Malibu, Flynn said that cooking has always felt natural. I quoted Flynn himself. I got that from my video. The channel was called ABC News, and then comma is the date it was uploaded was 2018. That tells me or tells your reader that you got this exact quote from that source, and then it will make reference to your works cited page that we'll make next week. Make sure it's in parentheses and make sure there's a period to follow. Okay? Then I'm going to continue writing, and even though I'm using 3 different sources, you might find that you have the same information being repeated, which is exactly what I wanted within your 3 sources, because then that tells us that the information probably is accurate and correct. Make sure, even though the rest of your information is paraphrased, you still have to give credit to the source. You did not come up with this information all on your own. You read an article or you watched a video where you got the information. I got most of my information from the New York Times. Okay. There are a couple things I want to point out. Up here, the NewYorkTimes.com and this big long with all the numbers and letters, that is the URL or the web address. That is not the title of your source. It is the URL or the web address. It will be important later on when we are doing a works cited page, but for right now, what you need to know is the title. So the title of this website is simply called the New York Times. Then I need the publication date. Sometimes you can find it directly under the title of the article, or in my case, you have to scroll all the way to the bottom. Oh, it's right under here under the author, by Pete Wells, August 7th, 2018. There's the date. The year is what's important. Some of you might have to scroll all the way to the bottom in order to find out the date. Okay, you can see it's also noted down here, 2018. So how do I cite this? Well, if the majority of my information came from this particular source, I can simply do the citation at the very end of the paragraph. Okay, so I put the New York Times, comma, 2018. That tells me the title of the source and the date it was published. Now I, as a reader, know that all the information in the above paragraph, with the exception of my quote, came from this particular source. If you had another chunk of information, for instance, maybe I had this chunk of information come from another source, I could put the parenthetical citation from that source right here. Okay, so let me do an example real quick. I did have another source. I didn't use it as much, but if I had, let me give you an example. One I used was called the Boston Globe. And this is about a documentary that was written about Flynn. Okay. If I were to use the Boston Globe, because maybe I got one bit of information, I would go after the sentence where I wrote about it. Let's pretend it's here. And I'd put the name of the website, Boston Globe, comma, and this date also happens to be 2018. Okay? Now that tells me as a reader that particular sentence information I got from that source. I don't know how you organize your sources, but that is just a way. I sure hope this helps. And if you need any further information or help or assistance, please ask me in class. Thank you so much, guys. I look forward to reading your work.